This is eNews at 7 live from Johannesburg. I'm Tony Ndoro, and these are your top stories. Michael Masuda wants answers after one Khudamud prison warder was killed and another allegedly raped by an inmate. The search continues for over 200 people still missing in the Zimbabwean village of Kopa after the deadly cyclone Idai. But we start with this. Correctional Services Minister Michael Masuda has extended condolences to the family of an official who was killed by a prisoner at the Khudamud prison in the Free State. Two female officers who were held hostage by an inmate, and one was stabbed to death and the other was reportedly raped.
We extend our heartfelt condolences to family and loved ones of the bereaved family, and also wish speedy recovery to the colleague who also was assaulted in the incident. My understanding is that this is one of the facilities which is actually undercrowded at about 97%. So the issue of the facility operating beyond capacity does not arise.
The ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa was out and about in KwaZulu-Natal. He visited several houses in KwaMashu and assured his supporters that job creation is one of his government's key priorities.
Abantwana abaningi ulusha abayithola imisebenzi. Nalabo abanye baku 35 nokuya phezulu abayithola imisebenzi. Angithi kunjalo siyakwazi lokho. Sibhizi ngaloko sizama ukuvula amathuba yemisebenzi.
Now, EFF leader Julius Malema says if his party wins the general election, he'll make sure that all corrupt ANC leaders are sent to jail. He was speaking at the launch of the EFF's provincial manifesto in the Western Cape earlier.
That when we take over government, first thing first, Zuma prison. That's where it's going. If you want to see Zuma arrested, vote for EFF. And then a cellmate of Zuma, Cyril Ramaphosa, they will be together. That one for stealing money from Nkandla, this one for murder. And then they will be followed by Nomvula Mkonyan, Busasa, prison. Then don't forget Batabile Dlamini, Sasa, prison. Malusi Gigaba, imagine this in your mouth, you will do it in prison. You will do those things of mouth in prison.
Some much-needed relief for students and universities in Gauteng. Government has identified buildings that it'll hand over to house students. Accommodation shortages aren't new, though, and students are questioning government's motives. The Infrastructure Development Department identified available and underused buildings in and around Johannesburg and in Pretoria. Maseko Rahlacha has more.
The demand for safe and sustainable accommodation has intensified, with student leaders saying it needs urgent attention. Housing has a direct impact on students' academic success. This is one of the solutions coming from Gauteng Premier David Makura's office, a building near Wits University in Parktown. The old health building will need to be renovated, and this will require time and money. Meanwhile, students will have to continue sleeping in the libraries because they cannot afford the rent at most of the private buildings around here. Student leaders say they appreciate this, but wonder why it's suddenly happening now after such a long fight.
We will take the buildings because we are in need of them. But I mean, if you check the last, maybe for the past 7 years, all SRCs, they have been speaking on the same issue. We are ANC. It's like ANC is in charge at VETS. It can't be that we are in charge at VETS and we have such issues.
The university says it's still awaiting paperwork from government.
It's a much needed relief, and we are quite excited about this opportunity that has become available, and we look forward to working with government on making sure that the building is prepared as soon as possible to be able to assist our students.
This isn't a new idea. In 2017, then Higher Education Minister Bladen Zimande handed over an old nursing home to Wits University for student accommodation. Masuda, Braamfontein.
2 Durban women are recovering in hospital following a vicious attack by 5 dogs. The owner of the animals appeared in court on Thursday, facing 2 charges. Our reporter Mawande Keswa has more. But please note that this story contains graphic visuals and may be upsetting to some viewers.
Earlier this week, this street became the scene of a nightmare for 2 Durban women, aged 28 and 49. A passerby who tried to help recalls what happened.
As I came down the road, I saw a big commotion. All right, the dogs were aggressively biting something, and I realized it was not something, it was someone. So I got on my hooter, and they went away from the lady and came back. And at that stage, I realized I need to get out and help her. So I picked up a stick from the road, and I just started hitting and kicking and screaming. And by this stage, another lady stopped behind me, behind my vehicle, and she tried to call the owner. So the dogs were obviously away from the first victim, going towards the gate where the second victim was. So the second victim actually called the owner, and then the dog started attacking her.
Both victims suffered various injuries to their lower bodies.
Her left leg, it's worse than the right one.
Police say the owner of the dogs is facing 2 charges.
The Mozambique police have opened a case of keeping vicious dogs as well as assault with intent to do grievous bodily harm. That is why this man has been arrested and he is facing these charges at court.
The SPCA says the dogs must be euthanized. The suspect is due back in court on the 16th of May. Mawande Keswa, Durban.
All right, coming up, a former Mozambican President Joaquim Chissano pleads with the world to continue giving assistance to his country after the devastating cyclone. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, over 200 people are missing in the village of Kopa in Zimbabwe's Chimanimani district. That's after the destruction of Cyclone Idai. The cyclone hit eastern Zimbabwe 2 weeks ago. The cyclone brought an unthinkable amount of water, mud and boulders down and pulverized this village.
One of the badly affected areas in the Chimanimani district is an area called Kopa. The Gift of the Givers team, along with 4 sniffer dogs and search and rescue technicians, are being helicoptered into the area where at least 39 school children and the school principal's bodies remain missing. We're going to see if we can catch a lift. It's worse than anyone could have imagined. What looks like a massive riverbed from the air is where Kopa used to be. As we land, we're told there's a woman looking for family members, including her daughter and granddaughter.
She's saying she's been here several weeks. She's looking for Susan and Mr. Mendamweri. They all perished during the disaster, and she has been coming here for several days looking for her. And she is actually praying if she could find the bones just to keep or to make the matter rest.
Her pain felt by so many here. We ask where the primary school is with the 39 missing learners. It's gone. Nothing but a newly formed river and rocks in its place. It's clear that there are far more people missing than just 39. Three rivers meet in Kopa. The cyclone brought an unthinkable amount of water, mud and boulders down, pulverizing the village. Among the debris, the sniffer dog teams managed to identify 10 possible victims buried beneath our feet. I'm sitting on what used to be Copa Village. The massive boulders that you see are believed to have been the foundations of a dam 10 kilometers upriver that was washed down by the cyclone. Just in this vicinity, there are 207 people reported missing and only 5 bodies have been recovered. Michael Apple in Copa Village in Chimanimani district in Zimbabwe.
Now, former Mozambican President Joaquim Chissano has asked the world to continue giving assistance to his country. The southern African state is trying to recover from Cyclone Idai, which smashed into the port city of Beira 2 weeks ago. Mozambique's disaster management says the death toll has now risen to 648. Over 1.8 million people are affected. Authorities have called off rescue operations for victims as the focus now turns to containing the inevitable outbreak of disease. Chissano spoke to eNews on the sidelines of the Global Business Roundtable in Johannesburg.
Many people may still die, not by the direct effects of the cyclone, but by the diseases, by other adversities of lack of shelter and things like that. So we may have people dying, but anyway, there will be still a lot of suffering if the infrastructures are not rebuilt. It takes a long time to rebuild schools, hospitals, roads, bridges, and so on. So people may start producing afresh, but then they will have difficulties in trading whatever they are going to produce if these infrastructures are not built quickly.
People around the world are being urged to participate in Earth Hour later tonight. It's a switch off to show your commitment to the planet and the environment. Scores of countries participate, but this year, as South Africans are being urged to participate, well, we're just emerging from days of stage 4 load shedding, and the Twitterati is not liking the appeal from local authorities to switch off.
The world is switching off. But South Africans are saying we've been switching off for days. And as authorities urge us to do our bit, one Twitter user is urging authorities to just use their switches because after all, they know where they are. Another says he's more than willing to do his bit for the environment, so he'll plant a tree. Whatever you decide, it's clear South Africans aren't laughing about being in the dark.
Stay with us though. Coming up, we'll bring you weather details for the rest of your weekend.
Welcome to the Weather Center. We have a cold front that is going to hit our shows tonight, and as we get into Sunday morning, the front will introduce light rain into the southwestern parts of the country. It will also be rather foggy for your Sunday morning over parts of the West Coast and the Adjacent Interior, as well as across parts of the Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, and the Eastern Escarpment areas. Then in the afternoon, we will see isolated thundershows extending from the eastern parts of the Northern Cape into much of eastern South Africa, and also pushing down into parts of the Eastern Cape and western KwaZulu-Natal. And in the evening, we are going to see yet another cold front maintaining light rain over the south coast. It will be cloudy and rainy on Sunday night for the western areas of the Eastern Cape. Now, here's a closer look at what you can expect for your part of the country. We start with the Northern Cape, where isolated thundershows are forecast on Sunday afternoon for the eastern areas, where it's going to be pretty hot in some areas, with Upington peaking at around 35 degrees. It will be partly cloudy to cloudy for parts of the Western Cape, with a light rain for the southern parts of the province. province. Cape Town gets away with partly cloudy skies, warming to around 23 degrees. We're also going to see light rain over the southwestern areas of the Eastern Cape. The rest of the province should see isolated thundershowers, and it's going to be pretty warm for the northern parts. We are expecting a dry one for the KwaZulu-Natal province, warm to hot for most areas. Durban and Port Shepstone peaking at around 28 degrees. Thundery showers are forecast for the Mpumalanga Highveld. Dry, however, for Mbombela, peaking at around 29. We are going to see passing showers as well for parts of Limpopo. Dry for Polokwane with a high of around 29 degrees. Thundershowers are also forecast for much of the northwest, where highs in the lower 30s are expected in most areas. We are also going to see similar weather for much of the Free State, Forest Smith and Bloemfontein, warming to around 31 degrees. Gauteng should also see afternoon thundershowers, Soweto and Johannesburg with highs of around 29. Now on Monday, we should see isolated thundershowers persisting over the eastern areas, light rain from George into Durban. Then on Tuesday, rain and thundershowers are forecast over the eastern areas. It will be mostly sunny and warm in Cape Town.
All right, now, if you can dream it, you can do it. That is the message from a young man who went from being unemployed to being a published author. His book, Drowning in Own Tears, was published last year and is now just a couple of hundred copies away from being a bestseller. Slindelo Masikane has more.
She looked so thirsty and hungry like a lion.
Against all odds, 28-year-old Mishek Bevula is living his dream. He's come a long way from holding up a placard on the street corner, pleading for help to have his book published.
For a moment, I thought, what about my dignity? But I was like, woman, you can't worry about dignity. You have to be realistic at some point. So I was like, you know what? To hell with dignity. Let me just go to the robots with the placard and just ask for help. I think I waited there for like 2 hours. Then after that, there were some pics circulating on Twitter, Facebook. I started getting calls and emails with people wanting to help me.
His debut novel is an intriguing read. He says he fell in love with writing in 2013.
I was actually writing for newspapers, magazines. So I was writing on opinion pieces, those articles, week in, week out. I was always winning for best articles of the week on Daily Sun, Sowetan, Move, Drum.
Published in May last year, the book has garnered much success. Bevula is now on his way to reach bestseller status. He needs to sell 265 more copies.
200 a copy, 200 a copy.
Bevula says he hopes his journey will encourage young writers to never give up.
I actually want to educate or rather inform the young authors to say, you know what, sometimes you shouldn't write a story that you think is going to sell. Write a story that you think is going to inspire, because nowadays people just write books to get money. You have to write a book to inspire other people or to get other people informed about their experiences.
The young South African author hopes his book will transcend our borders and make its mark internationally. Slindelo Masikane, Johannesburg.
Right, let's recap your stories, or our two top stories for tonight. Michael Masuda wants answers after one Khudumud prison warder was killed and another allegedly raped by an inmate. The search continues for over 200 people still missing in the Zimbabwean village of Kopa after the deadly cyclone Idai. That's it from me and everybody behind the scenes. Have a fantastic Saturday evening. Good night.